everything's turned off. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be doing a driving comparison with my 2021 Ram TRX and my 2021 Ford F-150. Now this is going to be an on-road driving comparison, and so let's jump into the first part and then we'll jump into the driving. So first off, we've got the Ram TRX chilling over here in the side driveway. So just to quickly go over some specs, 702 horsepower from a supercharged 6.2 liter V8 8-speed automatic transmission, and then 650 pound-feet of torque. Bright green, and this truck is pretty much, you know, stock from a powertrain perspective, other than the fact that it has an exhaust, which doesn't really change the power all that much. But yes, in the one corner we have the bright green TRX, and I guess I got to get my steps in today because the Raptor, well, it is in the other driveway, and well, of course it's a long walk, and also everyone's been asking me to clean up these leaves. I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm lazy, and what's the point of cleaning up the leaves when I can just walk through it and it makes crunching sounds and it's lots of fun. But also we are almost there, just wait a little bit longer, and we have the Gen 3 Raptor. We have the twin turbo V6 10-speed automatic transmission, 450 horsepower, 510 pound-feet of torque. So we're down in horsepower and torque, but this truck weighs quite a bit less than the TRX. There's about a 700 pound weight difference between both of the trucks. And so let's see how that goes in with all of the driving. Well, let's talk about visibility in the TRX before we set off. There's your visibility of the hood. You got the heads-up display. Both the mirrors, I do a blind spot. Then throughout the rest of the rear. And with all that being said, we're gonna set off. Well, it's gonna be instant for you guys. I gotta wait a few more minutes because the TRX takes forever to warm up. Well, we are sufficiently warmed up. Oh, TRX, this thing is just an absolute animal. And we're gonna pop it in the manual mode. Gear shifts are so smooth with the TRX. They're quick, but they're very, very smooth. Like, you just don't feel the transitions with the gear shifts, which you guys will see with the Raptor can't exactly be said for the Raptor. They're still just as quick with the Raptor. Transmission and that is just as responsive. But again, there's just a smoothness with the ZF 8-speed automatic. And obviously the acceleration of the TRX is just, you can't beat it. It is absolutely insane. It is just crazy that a pickup truck is this fast. And yes, you can definitely perceive the difference on road when you drive the trucks back to back. Got to go a little bit slower around this than the Raptor because, well, she'll step out. Yeah, even with four-wheel drive, this thing gets way more tail happy than the Raptor in two-wheel drive. And I mean, it's expected when you have over 700 horsepower. It's just what's going to happen. Now, aside from that, ride quality, super smooth. It's a very comfortable truck, even in the sport mode. Still just kind of floats down the road, has this nice smooth ride quality to it. It's definitely a good experience. Again, those gear shifts, so smooth. And hearing that V8, so just listen to that. Oh man, this thing is a riot. I'm gonna slow down here a little bit so we can talk about other daily driver stuff. Safety tech's great. It's got blind spot, adaptive cruise control, all that. It's got the camera mirror, which you guys know I'm a huge fan of. Sound system's great. Infotainment system's easy to use. All of that daily driver stuff is fantastic. As for the steering wheel and the paddle shifters and all that, these paddle shifters are great. Response time with them is fantastic. They feel nice, like it's nice metallic trim, but they're just not big enough in the TRX. And then the steering wheel, I'm kind of mixed about. I love the look of the steering wheel with the carbon fiber and the Alcantara, but I kind of wish it was all leather like in the Raptor. And also, the Raptor steering wheel is a lot beefier, which I kind of prefer because you can get a better grip, especially off-road. Whereas this, it's just not as big, so I can't get as good of a grip with the truck. Oh my gosh, just listen to that. This thing is so fun. Aside from that, handling on road, it actually handles pretty good. She is a porker though. You can definitely feel the weight. You have to heave around so much weight with the TRX. And highway driving, super smooth, super comfortable. And you guys will hear me talk about this at the end of the video when I'm doing the final comparison between both the trucks after I drive the Raptor. And this thing is just so great on the highway. Definitely a highway vehicle. It's still fun around town, but the problem with driving this around town is it has so much power that you just instantly over the speed limit all the time. So you can't really use the power, which kind of sucks. So I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag. It's tons of fun. The acceleration's crazy, but then you get into trouble pretty quick. Whereas the Raptor, you just don't have to deal with that issue. Moving on from that, like, it's just a great truck and it's so much fun. And I feel like in the TRX, what I'm doing is I'm constantly just flooring it. Like every single time that I have a chance to floor it, I'm flooring it. I'm in the manual shift mode all the time so that I can have fun with shifting the gears myself and going through all that. Don't worry about that, guys. That's because I have the spare tire on. If you guys follow my channel, then you know that I put the spare on because my tire went flat, so that's why that's happening. The TRX is very reliable. Don't worry. Despite the light popping on. But yeah, it's a great truck. It's just different. Like the things that I think about when I'm driving this. When I think about this, I'm thinking about like, how can I beat everyone in acceleration? How can I beat everyone in a race? Whereas the Raptor, I'm just kind of minding my own business. And like, if I see like a curvy road, on road, I'm kind of like going through it and it feels a little bit better. The steering isn't as communicative. And so it's just different. It's kind of like the drag race truck versus the precision truck on road, basically. And with that being said, let's pop over into the Raptor. Well, let's talk about visibility here in the Raptor before we set off. There's your visibility over the hood and then through both of the mirrors. They do a blind spot, and then throughout the rest of the rear. And you guys will notice visibility is very similar. Now, Ford does kind of slope their windows down, so it kind of makes everything feel a little bit more open. But again, other than that, they're both massive trucks and both have great visibility. Now, before we actually set off here in a second, we are going to change the drive modes. We're going to pop into sport mode. I always twist it the wrong way, funny enough. So we got in the sport mode, and then we're going to put the exhaust to Baja. Suspension, we're going to keep that in sport. Steering is also going to be in sport with the sport mode. And so with all that being said, let's set off. So I held the button down for 10 seconds, so everything's turned off. Missed the shift there a little bit, sorry about that. So I guess that wasn't a perfect acceleration, but I mean, this thing for a pickup truck is actually relatively quick. The transmission, super responsive. Now, something that's interesting about the 10-speed with Ford is it seems like it kind of holds the gears to an extent. Like sometimes I don't know how to explain it. Like you have to drive one of these to like really be able to understand what I'm saying, but it'll kind of hold the gears, hold the RPMs at certain points. And it seems like the system is just constantly kind of going from place to place. It's very interesting. It's almost like an automatic mixed with a CVT is kind of what you feel. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's very cool because it makes the truck feel more responsive. Love the downshifts and this trombone exhaust is amazing. Now, grip with this truck's actually really good. I'm just in two-wheel drive here, two-wheel high to be exact, in the sport mode, and it hooks. It really does. Now, aside from the acceleration, from a sporty driving perspective, the Raptor feels really good for a pickup truck. You've got that light front end, and so turning feels great, and the steering with this truck is actually pretty communicative for a truck. You can actually feel what's happening with the front end of the truck, and again, with that light front end, you can actually do some sporty driving, and it actually feels relatively fun. It's not quite on the level of like a sports car or something like that, but I mean, for a truck, listen to that. It's good, and it handles really good. Even with these 37s, it still does a good job. I love the sound of that trombone exhaust. It is just absolutely amazing. But moving on from the exhaust and all that stuff, from a ride quality perspective, even with the suspension in the sport setting, it's very, very smooth. Something that I've noticed about the Raptor is it just has this nice luxury feel that is just so compliant, and it's really good. And it's a very nice daily driver. Now, since this is the on-road review, and if you guys want me to do like an actual highway test with both of the trucks back to back, I can do that, no problem. But I can tell you guys that on the interstate, this thing is very smooth, very comfortable. It doesn't have the passing power of the TRX. Definitely doesn't. But it's got more than enough passing power, and with all of the driving aid and the new Blue Cruise that makes it so this truck drives itself, it's a really good highway vehicle, really comfortable. Seats are very well bolstered, comfortable. Again, from a daily driver perspective, they do a really good job. So that is all fun and great. Sound system with the truck is also really solid. That's something that the trucks are pretty much equal, and they both have really good sound systems. See if we can try to get the back end to step out a little bit, but it just hooks too well. The truck just gets so much traction that it's hard to get it to step out on road. Pretty much gotta just throw it on some dirt trails, and then you can get to step out, which, trust me, we'll have the off-road review soon. Paddles, I guess I got to talk about the paddles. Definitely prefer the paddles here in the Gen 3 to the TRX. Just, they're massive, they feel really nice, got that nice metallic kind of feedback. But I guess the one thing that is kind of iffy about the Gen 3 with me is the fact that it's got the 10-speed, which is so many gears, and so when you're manually shifting, you're just shifting so much. When you're off-road, you're really not going to be going into higher gears, but like this transmission is kind of cumbersome to use on-road because you're not going to stay at super high RPMs all the time. So I leave this one in automatic mode on-road all the time pretty much. Whereas the TRX, I'll go into manual mode a little bit more often because less gears to go through. So I guess that is something else with the Raptor. And so I guess let's get into my, final thoughts here with the Gen 3 as an on-road truck, because I know most of you that are purchasing this or the TRX or, comparing them aren't going to do a whole lot of off-roading. You're just going to mostly do on-road driving. And here's what I have to say, and I guess this will kind of like summarize the whole video since we did the TRX driving portion first. And that is the fact that these trucks are both just as comfortable from a ride quality perspective. With the 5-link coil suspension in the back end of both trucks, they're both just as good. So that is equal. Seat comfort is pretty much the same between both of the trucks, so that again is also equal. Sound system, great. Infotainment systems, just as easy to use, that is great. Safety tech, well, you've got a plus and minus. So the TRX has a camera mirror, this does not, so the TRX has a point there, but this has Blue Cruise, whereas the TRX doesn't have any system like that. So this one's better from a self-driving perspective. So kind of take those both into account. And then from an acceleration perspective, this obviously is slower, but gets better fuel economy. The TRX is a lot faster, gets worse fuel economy. Passing power at low speeds, yeah, the TRX still has better passing power, but this, again, feels more than adequate at low speeds. It's really the highway that you feel the deficit of the Raptor, whereas the TRX feels just so monstrous because it just pulls like a freight train, just non-stop. It is just bananas, the speed that truck has. So I guess if highway passing power is important to you, then yeah, TRX wins on that aspect. And then from a handling perspective, the Raptor just, it's basically, it feels like it's just a little bit better, right? You feel like you're a little bit more in control of the truck. You get a little bit better steering feel. It's lighter weight. It makes sense. The TRX, because it's four-wheel drive, because it's so heavy, there's not as much feel, and it's a little bit more to toss around. So this definitely drives sportier from that perspective, but again, you don't get the acceleration. So there's benefits and downsides to both. So I guess in summarization, I'm sure you guys want me to pick one of these trucks. Which one would I pick for on-road driving? And here's kind of how I feel. If I'm just going to be going to like the grocery store or just going around town, I prefer the Raptor because it's a little bit lighter weight. It doesn't feel as cumbersome to drive around, and it's just a nice, easy experience overall, and it's super comfortable, and it feels nice for around town stuff. But when I'm on the highway, I want to be in the TRX. They're both just as comfortable on the highway, but the extra passing power I get with the TRX is just, it's worth it. And again, that's kind of just how it feels. And so again, they're both great trucks, but that's pretty much what happens is whenever I'm on a highway trip, I take the TRX. And if I'm just going to the store, if I'm just going to a dealership that's pretty close by in town to film at, I end up taking the Raptor. And so hopefully that helped you guys out with this side-by-side driving comparison. If you're stopping for the first time, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys.